So
All
we
right.
didn't know, you put Baptisia, period. And I went, okay.
That's fine. That's fine. There's been a lot of hybridization of Baptisias. Now there's a white form, there's a yellow form, and a lavender form in nature.
And she's got the,
And you
Yeah.
have
you have great pictures of
those
the,
are great pictures.
Yeah.
Hans Hansen, working for Walter's Gardens, has introduced some absolutely magnificent color variations of this very native plant. Again, a plant which gets very large, suitable for a center of a large border or behind in the back of a border, not suitable for a delicate border. But even when it's not in bloom, the form is very nice. It's more of a bush than albeit herbaceous, it's more of a bush than a perennial plant, which we normally think of.
And can you keep it small? People always ask. I say, boy, that's a lot of work.
I think Hans has also developed some shorter forms, and in this case, I think that probably be appropriate because a lot of them will get 5 feet tall or more. I love the plant, but it really belongs in a very major border. It's not something that's going to be, in a little delicate small border.
And if a collector can only have one plant, I refuse to give up the blue, even though I like these other colors, because it's such a cool blue.
Absolutely. Again, it's native, and I think native plants are, it's a big issue, which we shouldn't get into right now, but a lot of people really insist on having native plants, and for legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
The previous picture showed a black-eyed Susan, but I think we're going to get onto that later on. We can move
Yeah,
on.
they come in native.
with the Baptisia in the
Right.
background to show.
Okay. It looks like Brunnera, there are several forms of variegated ones. Looking Glass is probably the most available. They're all good. There are some with larger leaves than others, and there are different types of variegation on them.
We
most
see a lot of
architects-
Jack Frost locally.
Jack Frost is another very good one. There's a new one that has a very much larger leaf, the name of which I can't forget. I can't remember. Sorry. But they're all interesting. And again, this is a shade plant. You don't want to put this in the sun. It'll scorch and the leaves will turn brown. It is otherwise, it is herbaceous, but it'll stay green. Nice combination here with the Japanese painted fern, which again, for a shady area is a very, very useful plant. But nice,
The textures
nicely
are
done with
great,
the
nicely
hellebores
done.
in the back. It's very, very pretty. I don't know.
That's at our library garden where we take people once a month. And
Oh, that is nice. Nice job. Go ahead. Move on. All right. Caryopsis is another plant which is sort of half bush, half perennial. It's sold by shrub and tree people as well as perennial plant people. It gets usually 4 to 5 feet tall at maturity. It can be clipped back. I wouldn't do that with Baptisia, but this can be clipped back early in the spring, like you might, for instance, do with a chrysanthemum, so that it's lower. But there are some new forms on it that don't get up 2 feet. Again, a very nice center focus plant with basically lavender flowers. There's one that purports to be blue, but it's just a darker lavender. And the gold leaf form, I think, Worcester gold, I like that because it, again, gold as silver makes a very, very nice front of border look and differentiates, in this case, wall, but differentiates from where the lawn or wall begins and where the garden begins. So it's a very nice plant. Not widely available, but I like it. I think best of all the Caryopsis.
yeah, we're very fond of that one. As blue and gold people at U of M, national champions. We're always using blue and gold, and that's we cut them all the way back here, and
Can do it. It's herbaceous.
right, and cut all the way back. There they are underneath that umbrella pine,
Right.
just giving you gold.
Okay. This is one of my favorite plants because I love to say Ceratostigma plumbaginoides. I mean,
Oh, I missed the letter. I missed an I.
say it 3 times in a row. Ceratostigma plumbaginoides. It has it's a ground cover type thing. It'll take shade or sun. Has beautiful blue flowers, slightly lavender, but they're pretty good blue. But curiously, the buds are red, and then sometime in August it starts turning. The leaves start turning a carmine color, which persists until very hard frost. Again, another plant which is very good in the front of the border, although it's basically green, but when it starts turning that scarlet color, it really differentiates where the garden begins. Okay.
And I have to interject that Pierre does not mind at all getting out and getting his hands dirty and keeping the plumbago from getting into everything else. Because for those people who said, "Oh my gosh, what a nightmare! I put it in the garden and it spread." Well, of course.
Well,
it
yeah,
spread.
I've heard many people ask, is it a spreader? Not because they want it not to be, but because they want it to be. They want something that will be their entire garden and they don't ever have to worry about anything else. And if that's what you want, this is what you want.
But it takes a little while.
Yeah.
It does take a little
Yeah,
while
it's not an
if you
instant
don't
spread.
start with the mass to begin with.
I see someone offering that the Brunnerud that the name escape might be Alexander Great.
That's it. The big leaf one's called Alexander.
Thank you.
Alexander, whatever. Gray or silver, I don't remember. Okay. It's my plan.
Now you did not.
Somebody somewhere, I think it was my friend Alan Bush named one for me. It has one advantage over the others, and that is that it is more or less ever blooming. Now, when I say that, look at the picture on the right. That could have been taken in November because there's a flower. There's a flower coming up out of that plant pretty frequently over the whole growing season, which is not true of the others, but not so much that it makes it really that much greater than the others. Okay, they bloom in April, and they're pretty. Green and gold is their common name. They're native, but native to the Appalachians or the Piedmont, but perfectly hardy. They are a shade plant, which is very unusual because it's a daisy. It's in the daisy or the aster family, which is primarily a sun plant. In this case, it's a shade plant. Good plant, very hardy, and quite as you noted earlier. So
I like it. I like it that it's a good ground cover, but it doesn't go crazy.
True.
So we didn't realize that there was a Chrysogonum virginianum Pierre until you told us about that. So in our new ground cover area where we've been spreading the species, we put Pierre over here. And next year we'll try to get a picture of the two of them side by side.
Yeah, well, don't worry about it. I've got some here.
Well, we want to see.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Cimicifuga, active brunette. This is a plant which is of kind of questionable origin. The Actia is another name for Cimicifuga. We've always called it Cimicifuga. The botanists have gone to work and decided it's the wrong name and has joined it to a group of plants which
I don't think are the same.
yeah,
Disagree too.
Doll's eyes is a common name of one of our wild forms, but this one originated in Denmark from a very nice nursery, no longer there, which was owned and run by a very, very great horticultural woman. Not too many nurseries in the world are run by women. One in the United States, by the way, is a good friend, is Blooming Nurseries. Pardon?
I was going to say Aini Busi.
No, she's no longer with us, unfortunately. No, Blooming Nurseries, which is owned and run by Grace Dinsdale, who's a good friend.
In Oregon.
In Oregon, in Blooming, Oregon, which is a lovely name for a town to have a nursery in, So
I learned these dark leaf plants through your friend Fred's introduction.
Fred,
Hillside Black Beauty.
Yeah, well, Fred was a really great horticulturist, but a little bit of a thief. He found street plants he found and bought 3 friends from a very, very well-known English gardener, also a woman, brought them back to the United States, planted them in his garden, and then told everybody he'd found 3 seedlings there and named it Hillside Black Beauty. So, you know, there are people in the nursery business that aren't always terribly honest. I hate to say this. But
Well,
it's a nice plant. Again, contrasting against the gold leaf of the plant, is that
against an Aurelia.
Oh, it's a Aurelia sun gold, which is again a very deceptive name because if you put it in the sun, it scorches like crazy. It's really a good shade plant. Okay.
I like the dark leaf types for blooming late too. But they're,
Oh yeah, they do bloom much later. Our native species Racemosa blooms in June and is a nice plant.
I think this is Racemosa.
They look,
It might be Ramosa because it was later, but.
yeah, Ramosa blooms later. There are some later forms, but it's hard to say. The leaves on both the ones here look a little purplish. Racemosa is not purplish. I don't know.
Okay, no, yeah, and these were not, but it was the only ones that we had with them blooming. With the dark leaf ones, I
Yeah.
stand out there in the snow in October, the first snow, and say, are you gonna bloom or not? And when it blooms, it doesn't always have the best background for a white flower.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
late and the pollinators do come to it.
The native Cimicifuga racemosa, I planted some at the house, which we have now sold. We live in a condo, and I don't have the huge garden that I used to have, but the one I planted some there many, many years ago, and it sowed itself all around the woodland area in the back of my garden, which is fine because it just naturally likes that kind of shaded place. Also,
Where
behind the house, we're on the shady side.
it's where it belongs.